Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron for the New Order as Scotland. Let us continue on where we last left off. So, we've just had an election. The SNP is still in charge of the country. And, you know, England is slowly becoming a war zone. I'm not too sure. I mean, what you're at towards the north right now. You had to do one of these three. Are these all available? Yeah, because you got to do all of this. And then go down to not enough time, which I believe no matter what starts the English Civil War. And we want, I'm pretty sure we want the HMMLR to eventually win that. Do you want to go for the armed forces? No, I don't think right now. Maybe when we get closer to when England might start to explode, we'll want to get our army ready. But I don't think right now it's very important. So a steady course. The screen begins to clear of static and cackle of noise begins to filter into something close to music. Hen, the telly's on. Calls over his shoulder. Just a moment. Makes his head, peeks around the corner of the kitchen door. But you don't want one, love. He shakes his head, eyes glued to the clearing pitcher. She rushes in, piping tea in her hands, and drops down onto her chair. She sips quietly as the cackle of news jingle gives way to the monochrome pitcher. Robert McGinty, looking down at the at his lectern, makes a comment on how old McGinty begins to look, but James isn't paying attention. As McGinty clears his throat and looks directly at the camera, James finds himself leaning in. We have a duty, McGinty intones, to this nation to keep it free from foreign oppression. Those that threaten our independence shall never find success in our lands. I promise this. My government promises this. Scottish National Party promises this. Never shall our nation fall under the dominance of another. McGinty continues speaking, but James isn't really paying attention anymore. He looks at the window. It isn't a bright day. There aren't any flags on the terrace, but he starts to wonder if he might have got one. Okay, so I mean, people seem like they like the SNP well enough. I mean, they did win the election. How is the English minority of the country? I'm sure they're still not liking us a little bit more. I mean, poverty's not changing, but it's not going down, but it's also not going up. And we are losing popularity with the English minority in the country, at least right now. I see a ship in the harbor. Sir, called the first mate of the SS Riding Mountain from the bridge. Better look at this. Captain Mercer came running. Whatever the situation was, it was obviously urgent. He had been on the runs before, the same route between Edinburgh and Quebec. Dropped grain off in Scotland, take goods back to Canada. It was so simple. What would be going wrong this soon after leaving Edinburgh? He couldn't believe the answer, and had to confirm with his own binoculars. A line of destroyers and cruisers that had set themselves across the Firth of Forth. One which is aiming its guns at the vessel. But they weren't German craft, he could tell. It was the Edinburgh fleet, now aligned between the North Berwick and Ely. Unidentified vessel, identify yourself, crackle the radio. This is the destroyer NSS Echo. Identify yourself immediately. Captain Mercer took the microphone. NSS Echo, he said. This is the SS Riding Mountain, a Canadian flag vessel from Halifax. I repeat, SS Riding Mountain. Canadian flag vessel, Halifax, over. A pause near the other end. All right, Riding Mountain, prepared for boarding and inspection. You'll pull up alongside you, over. NNS Echo, we're a Canadian flag vessel from... We heard you the first time, Riding Mountain. You're in our waters. We can stop whoever you want in our waters. Now pull alongside where you want us to fire a shot across your bow first. So the Scottish fleet is trying to protect our international waters. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Also, some stuff here. Investigating the Navy. Send a spy into the Navy. What? Wait, what's the Navy up to? What are they doing? Break up the blockade. "78 days for this." Let's send a spy into the Navy. I don't know what the Navy is doing. They're trying to blockade trade. And I don't think Scotland has great resource production, I guess you could say. I mean, I'm sure we have like good resources, but I don't think we got a lot of food production in Scotland. There's a lot of mountains. So I'm assuming grain is going to be a little bit more limited than we would want. So Scotland forever. Vitalize the economy. Increase the draft. Armed forces become more happy if we do all of this. I mean, I'm not against it. Let's go for the Anglo problem. Let's see if we can kind of deal with the minorities in the country, the English minority. Also, we need to select technology research. Any weapons? Yes, there is. You know what? Let's make our way towards the 58 rifle and get that done ASAP. Let's see. Is there anything else happening in the world right now? I mean, Turkey and Italy are at war over this province here. Usually, Turkey ends up winning that war, from what I've seen. Father Nation! Infantry puts on his best smile as the bulbs flash and covering falls. For him, John McCormick in a polished and clean graphite stands, almost imposing at the steps of the University of Edinburgh. They continue using marble, or they considered using marble, but McIntry thought it was too ostentatious. He thought it was enough that the plaque bearing his name was engraved the Father of the Nation. Appellation of the man himself would have Winstadt. It's not a particularly accurate representation, but it's good enough, he thinks. He lost his punch in the transition, and he can't ever remember him being having such a peaceful style, but it'll be due. Besides, they didn't put the statue up for the man himself, they put it up for them, to remind them of where they'd been and where they'd been taken, and who had taken them here. For that, it was good enough. The president, he did die, I think 2 episodes now at this point. Italy actually won the war. Interesting. We'll see how that plays out in the Middle East. I don't think there's like that much Middle Eastern content. And any Middle Eastern content that does exist, I believe really only starts happening like the 1970s with the oil crisis. And I'm not too sure if a Scotland campaign is really going to get their way into the 1970s. I don't know, there's 8 years of content for us to do. Deep cover. Okay, so I just talked with some police guys, said Jen Steele. And they'll do it. We'll have Philo out there by this afternoon. So what's he going to do? The plan is he finds some sailors or officers and start asking questions. Remington said. He gets their trust and builds a rapport with them. Then he asks what's going on and he gets some answers from them. Straight answers, inferred answers, whatever. Just enough that we know what the hell they're really doing out there. At least that's the plan, Jen said. The guy they want is pretty good, I'd say. So we got that going for us. How good? No background, was in the war. I'll have no problem getting together with some sailors and talking about things of mutual interest. Let's just hope he'll be able to get what we need out of our infiltration of the Navy. 48 days, year 20, year 25. So that, I guess we can actually do both of these. We have enough time to get all of it done. Get more stability, we'll lose some stability. You know, let's try to make the English in our country a little happier. The Kirkland pub crawl. Kirkland! In the Orkneys was a large town in the Isles and popular destination for sailors of the Scottish fleet on shore leave, due to its proximity to a major naval base in Scapa Flow. On this day, many sailors crowded the pubs and restaurants of the town, looking to relax. One pub man said himself, known to a group of sailors, explaining how he had once been in the Navy and was interested in how things were going nowadays. Over a couple of beers, the man and the sailors got into extended conversation about the services during the war and the younger sailors' more recent experiences. Then they would exercise in the Firth, the man said. You know what's up with that? Every sailor perked up at those words. Then to talk around the fleet for days, said one. How come I haven't heard of it? The man said, well, I'm keeping close eye on naval news, I guess. So what's going on down there? Huge illegal shipping crackdown, said a sailor. They just started blaring alarms one night and MPs were running everywhere and yelling alert. I thought Jerry had finally done it, but it was just a massive bust of smuggling they wanted everybody to get ready for. Our spookdom must have been very good and very urgent, said a sailor who worked as a typist at the headquarters. Courier ran in. They wanted a meeting with in Edinburgh fleet captains immediately. Then half an hour later, they got orders to start moving out. Nothing makes them move that fast unless it's highly important. Sailors talked on, the man relieved. This wasn't a coup attempt, as some had feared. As soon as this tape got back to Edinburgh, they would be relieved as well. So they're doing a drug smuggling operation. Or they're trying to bust a drug smuggling operation. But yet somehow the government hasn't heard about this whole drug smuggling operation that's apparently going on. It's a big deal in northern Scotland. Seems suspicious if you ask me. We're gonna investigate the Navy and then we'll try to break up the blockade afterwards. And hopefully nothing bad happens. Oh, we can also HMMLR. Do we have enough equipment for that? I have 500 guns. That should, I think, do at least okay. 250 rifles, send him some training. And I did not change this yet. You know, let's create a spy agency as well. I'm not too sure what impact that's really going to have, but, I mean, we'll see. So the armed forces are still a little paranoid, but they're indifferent towards us. If we can get the military to have positive opinion, that'd be nice. Security force will adopt their behavior towards the English population. Edinburgh summit. This will make promises to the English minority leaders about the commitment to a free England. Does this, however, mean that HMMLR are to fail? The English will be angry. Well, I mean, it's 1962 right now. You do want to keep our eye on this, just to make sure that they're not close to having their war. I think they need to fill their focus tree out for the war to actually begin, but I might be wrong on that. Watching the Watchers. So that's how we're going to do this. Ask investigator Jensen Steele. We just asked about the Navy for information about their own activities. Well, yes, said Finn McDonald. We asked them, both officially and not officially. We knock on the door and politely ask for the files. If they don't give it to us, we do it again and again. If that's not enough, we get creative. We corner a few on the way to or from work and make them answer questions as well. But if that doesn't get us where we need to go, then we start spying on them. Get a hand radio stand and start spying on their communications. They got a radio at sea, don't they? And it's all free air anyway. We have the right to listen to whatever they put out. Hopefully they'll start discussing what they're doing without code as well. I see. That should get us all we need. But if you aren't getting where you need, then you burgle them or you launch a raid on naval headquarters. I guess we'll try to break up the blockade. I have a feeling it's going to make the army a little mad at us. I just want to know what the blockade actually is. You mean to tell me there's a reason they're balling traffic up there? Asked Finn McDonald. The investigation confirmed it. Blamed Jensen Steele. Navy gladly handed over all the necessary files, and people were interrogated and confirmed all the details. Overall, we're extremely confident that the information is accurate. You're shitting me, McDonald said disbelievingly. Alright, let's hear it. As in this report, Steele said as he put it on my desk, the military got information a while ago that the ship was making unscheduled visits to the continent, smuggling things out of Edinburgh and bringing heroin back from France. This violates a bunch of laws, it turns out. They put up a blockade to find the ship and bring the crew to justice. And it seems they decided to keep the government out of on an absolutely need-to-know basis. It's not a proper way of doing things, but not entirely wrong either. So we're getting French-based heroin. And the intrusion in Edinburgh. Effie McLeod got things done. When she was tasked with something to do, she did it quickly and efficiently without regard for what got in the way. Many people said this is the wrong way to do things, but that way of doing things put her far up the chain of command, to the point where she was now Secretary of Field Marshal Wimberley. She got a message that was marked urgent, and she was going to deliver that message post-haste. The problem was that she had no idea where Marshal Wimberley actually was. He had mentioned something on a meeting yesterday, and hadn't showed up today. It sounded important. How important was it really? It was peacetime, and it couldn't be as critical as the message she had to deliver. One of the other secretaries had mentioned her boss having some sort of meeting in the basement. Perhaps that's where he was. It was worth it to check out. Now, if he thought as she descended the staircase into a long corridor in the basement. The meeting would be in a room that they had mostly used for maintenance staff. The military sometimes used it for secret conferences. As she approached her muffled voices, unintelligible, she heard a few words and couldn't assign much significance to them. She heard a few of the voices. She seemed to have an accent, a little more southern than the one she usually heard, but she didn't take much notice. What did get her notice was the voice of Marshal Wimberley. Opening the door, she started, "Marshal, from Washington," and noticed Wimberley and several other Scottish officers. Some she recognized, but others she didn't. But the ones she didn't recognize, but she didn't recognize the others in attendance. Some were in civilian clothes, others had a few berets with a red star, and one even wore a shirt on the officer of the Collaborationist England. And she noticed a map of Britain on the table, marking around England and Scottish border region, and the maps were the words like drop zone, safe house, and supply routes. But one unusually word struck her. Over the map, said in the capital HMMLR. They closed the door behind her. Okay, so Wimberley's having some communications with officers in England. And if you've actually, in our very, very short England series that I never actually finished, you'll remember that we were having meetings with the Scottish government as HMMLR. That's probably in relation to that. We'll see actually what we can do when the war actually begins in England. In a true meaning of St. Andrew's Day, Pastor Renwick smiled sadly at the congregation funneled out. Every year was the same. More religious Scots attended church reluctantly for the Saints' Day, while the general populace hardly remembered the day was attached to a saint at all. Whether they'd gone to church or not, they'd spend the afternoon and evening carousing at the festivals. For independence, people had at least paid lip service to the religious holiday, but since the fall of the United Kingdom, St. Andrew's Day had become little more than a day of nationalist chest thumping, a day when the flag was more important than the religion the day was devoted to. Pastor, asked a small voice from one of the pews. Ah, Miss Whitney, Benedict said with a smile, his eyes resting on the child who stayed behind. Well, I was just wondering if you'd been at the festival. Ma said you were praying in Stoof last year, and we just really miss you out there is all. The whole combination will be there, you know. And it's not fair for ye to have to miss it. Whole combination, you say? Said Renwick with a smile. Well, if you really want me there, I'll go. We'll pray extra hard this Sunday to make up for it, okay? Andrew would want us together. Celebrate together. Okay, anyways. Do you have any more military tech? Yeah, let's go for anti-tank level 2. I think it's time for us to start modernizing our navy as much as we possibly can. And Rick Hulk's been severely injured in the Kiel bombing. And I believe that's the leader of Ukraine over here. Or at least, you know, the German government in Ukraine. Aside from that, we're not really seeing too much, like, what, do we know what you guys are doing? No national focus right now. Expanding lobbying efforts. We're in the Panzer fleet. Getting some tourism up. The United States is working with South Africa. And what about Brazil with their new focus tree? A deal with the Free French. Interesting. I do think Free France would definitely be a country that would be very interesting to play when they actually get some content. But I have no idea when that actually would be. Yeah, we'll go for 56 weapons next. Yeah, we could be nicer. Let's lessen requirements here. Again, we're going to double check on England, see what they're actually up to. I mean, there's still, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? 11 focuses away, I believe, from the war actually beginning. We now have a spy agency. And Burgundy has the bomb. A view from above. You want to see me, Minister? Asked Admiral Anstis as he walked into the office. Minister of Defense was not in a good mood. Admiral, he said. In fact, immediately you were to cease operations in the 1st to 4th. The Edinburgh fleet returned at once to its home port. The Admiral was shocked. Why? Don't give me that, said the Minister. We all know as well as I do, that you can't just set up a blockade wherever you want. You're answerable to us, and we tell you when you can blockade. You don't know why you're out. You don't know why we're out there, don't you? You absolute fucking tosser. Asked Antis. Silence. You're running anti-smuggling operation. We have evidence that she's bringing drugs into here from France. We were going to stop them, and it's a completely legal operation that we have every right to do. And you're canceling it because you want to feel like you're actually doing something useful and showing us who's in charge? Fine, we'll withdraw. And the heroin will continue to come in. That's what you incompetents want. Answers then proceed to storm out. Okay, removes mission. The armed forces become more paranoid. Okay, so the armed forces are now rising in paranoia. So they're a little paranoid, okay? Just a tad. Just a tad. But at least, you know... More training, more weapons. How many guns are actually making right now? 2.5. Not actually very good. But our industry is hot garbage, like right now. And you're not going to be done until 73. 11 years for one factory? The boys in blue. One more thing, lad said. Chief Superintendent of the Glasgow Police Division, Lance J. Bjorn. The government has just called off the English neighborhood surveillance program. We got word down from on high, the man groaned. Why the hell did they do this? Asked one officer. They thought that just watching English neighborhoods waiting for someone to commit crime wasn't doing us any favors, Superintendent explained. Said that it was costing us goodwill to watch these neighborhoods just like the Gestapo. So now, before you set up surveillance in those areas, you have to get a warrant and explain why you think is going on out there. Then you set up shop. I know it's a big change, but they're thinking that by not reminding them of the old country so much, they'll be more eager to actually call the cops when they hear somebody get beaten to death outside their homes. The officer started to get up, seeing the superintendent was wrapping up his remarks. Oh, and if you wouldn't refer to them as scant bastards so much, that'd go a long way as well. As with less bonking their heads with patrol cars on the roofs. The SMB campaign will do all right. Yeah, so it'll be a little nicer. We will we'll lessen requirements on, I'm assuming, citizenship. Yeah, we can only do this actually if England is also not in a civil war. And then I think after this, you need to not be in a civil war, no, but you don't need to worry about that. But I mean, actually, all of these we can't do if England's at war. So I'm assuming this whole tree is going to change probably when the war actually begins. Okay, Bulgaria has sided with the Italians. I think that's completely a-okay. Back to school. These are the duties that Robert McGinty actually enjoys performing. Chance to see young children, fresh-faced and not yet as embittered, looking naively and innocently at the world. A chance to see the real effects on the education reforms he had pushed so heavily for. Via the gate by Rose Chic woman in her 50s and quickly pulled into the classroom. The children, no more than 10, are being incredibly well behaved, he thinks, even though he spies a pair at the back with pursed lips and barely concealed snickers. The guys are all enjoying their day to the chorus of "Yes, sir," where he's impressed. When one particular intrepid boy at the front quickly volunteers what they've been learning. History in the Battle of Bach and Burn. He smells that good, proper Scottish education. The rest go to visit. The rest of the visit goes just as smoothly, and he leaves. And when he leaves, he can't help but feel somewhat proud. The English may have stolen some of the Scottish identity, but each new generation, they are trying to reclaim it. But I think that at least for right now, it's going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, thumbs up. Not doing, click thumbs down. You want to subscribe, and goodbye.